In this video, I'm wearing a hat. It's a special occasion. We are driving a Daimler. This is a Daimler 2.5 litre, and you write that out in full, and it dates from 1964. It is the marriage of a Jaguar body, the Mark II, to Edward Turner's beautiful 2.5 litre V8 engine. It is the only cross-pollination between the two companies before Daimler just became badge engineered Jaguars. So it's a car with fascinating history. It sounds lovely. The interior is marvellous. So let's take a closer look. So the Mark II Jaguar is a compact Jaguar. It was originally launched as the Mark I. The Mark II came later, 1959 I think. We've still got leaf sprung rear suspension on these, but the big introduction on these cars was disc brakes all the way around. Quite staggering for the time. Daimler's history is a very interesting one, and we'll get to it a bit later on because it is very involved. But BSA owned Daimler since the early 1900s, but like I say, with a rather staid, outdated model range, Daimler was in trouble. And Sir William Lyons at Jaguar bought Daimler as a whole concern in 1960, primarily because he wanted the extra production capacity. But he had a look at what Daimler was doing, and he quite liked the V8 engine, and so that engine, which was used in the SP250 sports car, a rather ungainly but rather pleasant sports car, was stuffed into a Mark II to see how it would go. And the answer is fairly well. It's only 2.5 litre, but still reasonable power for the time. Let's take a look. So under the bonnet we find not the fabled XK Jaguar engine, but the Edward Turner designed V8. Edward Turner was a motorcycle man. He designed Triumph's motorbike engines and had moved to BSA to do the same sort of thing. And he designed this absolute peach of a V8 engine. You can see it's got twin SU carburetors, twin pancake filters. Originally there would have been just one airbox for the two carburetors, 2.5 litres, but there was also a 4.5 litre version that helped the majestic Major limousine to a 120 mph top speed. But they produce far more of these little 2.5 litre engines. But unfortunately, I think the Jaguar engineers would not have been keen. Even though this is a clever engine, it's got a Hemi head design and produces good power for its size, Jaguar were always going to prefer their own XK engine. And rather than develop this for the American market like they could have done, they desperately needed to, Jaguar designed its own V12 instead. But the answer was already there. But hey, that's one of life's great frustrations. Under the bonnet, if we come and have a look, we've actually got electric power steering as an upgrade on this car. So there's a hydraulic reservoir, you will hear that when we start the engine. We've got a Kenlo electric fan, although it looks like we've still got the viscous fan on the front of the engine as well. Alternator right there in front of you. And the engine fits very nicely in this engine bay, even though it was originally designed for a big, beefy straight six. Climbing aboard. Oh, this is proper traditional. The Daimler was, I think, a cut above the standard Mark II. So we've got all this lovely wood on the dashboard, plenty of switchgear for fan speed and panel lights, interior lights. We've got a push button starter. We've got an extension on the wiper stalk so you can reach it almost from the wheel. Lovely period radio as well. And automatic transmission with a little selector here on the column. Remember, that is not an indicator. And we've got control for the running of the engine over there as well. I think that is effectively your choke. But beautiful leather seats. Each seat has its own little armrest built in. Absolutely lovely. And the smell is utterly majestic. I'm also pleased to say plenty of headroom for a gentleman wearing his hat. I imagine many owners of these cars did. But yeah, it's just absolutely lovely. We've got manual winding windows, lovely action on that, opening quarter lights as well for a bit of extra ventilation, and the delicate little sun visors. All very lovely. We've even got the original supplying dealer's badge on the glove box there. So it was supplied new by Bambers in Sheffield. First owner didn't have the car very long. The second owner owned it in Chesterfield from a few years after it was purchased right through until about 8 years ago when the car passed to the current owner. And that's an extraordinary history. He's effectively only the third owner of this car, which is 50 years old. But let's go and see what it's like in the back. So squeezing in, we are reminded this is a compact Jaguar, so it's not the most spacious back here, but I've got enough knee room. Again, I've still got enough headroom, thankfully. Lovely little interior light here. And I love these opening quarter lights. Beautiful mechanism on those. And of course, you've got to have your ashtray as well. But there's even little door pockets here as well. And a lovely commanding view of the road ahead. So compact it may be, but it's not too cramped at all. I shall put on my seatbelt. They're rather nice modern units, colour coordinated to the rest of the interior, so that's very pleasant. And we shall do the important business of starting the engine. Listen to that, it just fires straight up. Now you can hear the whine of the electric pump for the steering. It sounds like there's an angry drone following us around, but nonetheless it does seem to work very well. I think the original power steering racks on these can be hideously expensive to refurbish, so I think the electric assist is probably a sensible upgrade. We shall put the car into drive. We're going to drive 2. There's 2 positions on the marker, and drive 2 will only use second and third gear. So if you want to accelerate, you don't use this position, you go for D1 instead. And just listen to the noise as we gently move away. Proper indicator lever, that is. You can hear the hum of the Borg Warner automatic transmission. But this is beautiful, and because the 2.5 litre V8 engine is about 50 kilos lighter than the XK engine, the car has a slightly nicer feel to it, I think. 2.5 litres must seem absolutely tiny to Americans. I forget what the cubic inches is, we'll put that here. But in terms of power, the 2.5 litre V8 was somewhere between the 2.4 and 3.4 versions of the Mark II. So about 110 mile an hour flat out. Not that we're going to be attempting that today. But oh, this feels marvellous. There's plenty of wheel arch, transmission tunnel intrusion, because the automatic transmission, a Borg Warner unit, is rather large. Oh, listen to that, I'm winding my window down more. Beautiful. The ride is a little unrefined because we've still got those leaf springs at the back. It's not bad though, it's fairly well cushioned, but ultimately the later Jaguars, the later Daimlers, independent rear suspension for a bit more comfort and control. The Mark II Jaguar and the Mark I before it, very popular for saloon car racing, because for a saloon car they had phenomenal performance in 3.8 litre manual overdrive form. Now with your Daimlers, the automatic was standard. You could, as an option, specify manual with or without overdrive, but not many did. Most people went automatic, and I kind of get it. This isn't the sporty car. This isn't the upstart of the Mark II Jaguar. This is much more about refinement. This would be your bank managers, people like that who just want to waft around in comfort. And I think that's something this car achieves very, very nicely. I think it's a beautiful mix. A lovely little V8 engine which makes all the right noises. And the beautiful styling. The styling of the Jaguar saloons, often credited to Sir William Lyons, who was the boss of Jaguar, but in truth he had a team of craftsmen who would build projects to his requirements. They would do styling bucks, and then he'd go, oh, I don't like that line, that's not quite right, and they would refine the design. No computer aided design, no draftsman really involved in creating the initial shape. It's all done by building something and deciding whether you liked it or not. Squeeze past the bus. Oh, now we're going to go past a wall. It'd be a shame if someone did this. Oh. So for my money, I've always thought this is the best engine you could get in a Jaguar. Unfortunately, it was replaced by a Daimler badged version of the Jaguar 420, which they called the Daimler Sovereign, but it owed nothing to Daimler at all other than the crinkly grille and the badge. It used Jaguar XK power. With rationalisation, as Jaguar fell into the hands of British Leyland, the V8 was sadly killed off. Now, rumour has it that Jaguar fitted the 4.5 litre V8 to some of its saloons, but the performance was so astonishing they daren't sell them because it might make the Jaguars look slow. Yeah, the steering's actually really, really nice. It's a steering box. It doesn't feel like it's got a millimetre of play in it. And the power assistance kicks in at a really nice level. I think without it, this would be a very heavy drive. So the history of Daimler itself, like I say, dates all the way back to the 1890s. Built its first car in 1897. And the name Daimler, you're obviously maybe getting confused with Daimler-Benz, who build the Mercedes-Benz cars today. But Frederick Sims, who kind of set up the original Daimler, had a good relationship with Gottlieb Daimler himself back in Germany, in Cannstatt, and agreed to kind of market Daimlers in the UK, and that's how the name came about. And then somehow Gottlieb himself stepped away from his own company, and the name just carried on in use in England, even as it started making its own products that were completely unrelated to the Daimlers of Germany. And that later did cause problems because Daimler-Benz, which marketed as Mercedes-Benz, really wanted to keep the use of that name to itself. So Daimler's just fell by the wayside, and I think 2010 is when the last Daimler badged car was built, based on the aluminium bodied Jaguar XJ and called the Super 8. And that was the end of a very long and distinguished history. Daimler had been the company that for almost 50 years had supplied the royal family with vehicles. It was a bit of a sad end for a very mighty company. Sounds magnificent, and you can stay the right side of the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Going up to 30. There's the kick down. It's all very, very smooth. We can open her up a bit more now. But for me, these cars are the ultimate. That engine is so good. This is the last proper Daimler with a Daimler engine. Oh, smooth. Might have to do my window up, unfortunately. And then we can appreciate the refinement. We're doing just over 50 miles an hour. And it's so smooth. Oof. handles tidily. We're not going to chuck around too much, that would be undignified, but does feel very good in the hand. So one of the downsides is it is a little bit fussy. The gearing is not very conducive to cruising, because these were cars that were still developed when motorways were still in their infancy, so it will do motorway pace, but higher revs than you'd perhaps be comfortable with. But I think there's more torque than you really expect from what is only a 2.5 litre engine. So confusingly, these were marketed in two ways. There was a Daimler 2.5 litre, which this is, with the deep bumpers. But when the Jaguar Mark II was facelifted to become the 240 and 340 with slimline bumpers, it became the V8 250. But really it feels a special honour to be driving one of these Daimlers, the last car with a Daimler V8 engine. Although Majestic Major production did also continue until the late 60s. It just wouldn't be the same when Daimlers were just, hello MGB, when Daimlers were just badge engineered Jaguars. And this, arguably the most successful Daimler of all time. They sold over 17,600 units, the vast majority with automatic transmission. But yeah, it's just a lovely thing to drive, so smooth. So there we are. For my money, this is the Mark II Jaguar you want. The one that isn't a Jaguar, it's a Daimler. But for what it represents, as well as the loveliness to drive, this has been an absolute joy. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store if you would like to buy lovely merchandise, or we'll see you at Rustival very soon. See you again. Bye. There you go, you got your wiper test, folks. We actually filmed this a few days after the test. Thank you.